Kenichi is a solitary, middle-aged office worker trapped in the monotony of a dead-end desk job. On a seemingly ordinary workday, he overdoes it on his go-to-energy drink, leading to his collapse and loss of consciousness. This alarming health incident becomes the wake-up call he desperately needed to make a drastic change. He decides to quit his job and leave his old life behind, relocating to the countryside to embrace a dull, simple existence as a farmer, settling in an unattractive cabin. One quiet afternoon, as he's in the middle of preparing lunch, something completely unexpected occurs. He's abruptly transported to an expansive, unfamiliar forest, feeling bewildered and uneasy. Kenichi scans his surroundings, his heart racing when his eyes fall upon the skeleton of an ancient knight, its armor pierced by a sword still lodged in its chest. Overwhelmed and alarmed, Kenichi glances around, trying to process his predicament and wondering how he's ever going to get out of this bizarre situation. Then, remembering an anime he once watched where the protagonist used a status bar in a similar scenario, he decides to try the same thing. To his amazement, a glowing status screen appears, displaying all his current stats. This is the moment Kenichi realizes he's in another world. Kenichi quickly adapts to the system, learning how it works. He discovers it allows him to store and retrieve items effortlessly, a feature he finds incredibly useful. Moments later, hunger strikes. The system offers him the option to buy food and water, but it comes at a price he can't afford since he's broke. Frustrated, he wonders what to do next. Kenichi soon stumbles upon the system's trading feature, allowing him to exchange valuable items for supplies. However, he quickly realizes there's nothing in his immediate surroundings to offer for trade. His gaze shifts back to the knight's skeleton, and his eyes lock onto the sword lodged in its chest. With no other options, he decides to use the sword for a trade. The system accepts the weapon, granting him 2 cartons of milk and some bread in return. After satisfying his hunger, Kenichi uses the leftover trade points to buy a shovel. With it, he carefully buries the knight's remains, offering a prayer of gratitude for the meal and the sword that helped him survive. Next, he buys a bike and begins exploring the area, knowing he needs to find a settlement and earn money quickly. Kenichi spends the rest of the day gathering items and trades them in for food and utensils. As night falls, he prepares a curry meal, ready to finally enjoy it, when a pack of black forest foxes starts creeping toward him. Fear grips him as he scrambles for a solution. Searching through his system, the only thing he can find is a box of fireworks. He throws them at the foxes, but they don't work. Panicking, he keeps looking until he discovers a slingshot with unlimited ammo. He fires a few shots, successfully scaring off the foxes. Relieved but shaken, Kenichi jumps on his bike and gets the hell out of there as fast as he can. The next morning, Kenichi finds himself at the edge of the forest, mentally preparing to face whatever challenges this strange new world has in store. Determined to find a way out, he resumes exploring the area. Using his system, he decides to purchase a stepladder and a pair of binoculars. Climbing up with the ladder, he scans the horizon through the binoculars and spots the walls of a city in the distance. This sight fills him with a glimmer of hope, as he believes reaching the city might provide him with an opportunity to earn money and start figuring things out. With newfound determination, Kenichi pushes his way through the dense weeds, moving as quickly as he can toward the city. Along the way, Kenichi reaches a crossroad and narrowly avoids being hit by a speeding carriage. The carriage stops in front of him, belonging to a young, blonde-haired merchant named Fayu, who feels bad about the near accident. Noticing the heavy rain, Fayu offers Kenichi a ride to the city free of charge. Kenichi climbs into the carriage and notices another passenger inside. Fayu explains that she is just a traveling bard and fellow traveler. As they continue their journey, Fayu observes that Kenichi's attire and name are unusual. Curious, he asks Kenichi what brings him to the city of Dahlia. Suspecting that he's not a local, Kenichi brushes off the question, simply stating that he's heading there for business purposes. Before long, they reach the city gates. Kenichi lends Fayu a hand unloading boxes from the carriage, and in return, Fayu hands him a small pouch as payment for the ride. Curious, Kenichi opens the pouch and discovers it's filled with pepper. His expression turns serious as Fayu cautions him about openly carrying spices. Fayu explains that the Spice Syndicate holds a strict monopoly over spices, making it risky to possess them without proper connections. Despite the warning, Fayu offers to buy the pepper from Kenichi, but Kenichi insists on gifting it to him. Fayu, however, refuses, stating that as a merchant, he's happy to get things cheaply but won't take anything for free. After handing Kenichi 3 silver pieces in exchange for the pepper, Fayu climbs back onto his carriage and continues on his way. Kenichi looks at the silver coins in disbelief. Realizing how much they're worth in yen, he's shocked by their value and feels a newfound sense of fortune. With money in hand, his next priority is finding a place to sleep. He heads to an inn, where he meets the attendant, a woman named Azalea. She greets him and guides him to the service counter, explaining the available rooms and payment methods. After paying for a room, Azalea asks Kenichi to write his name in the guest register. It's at this moment that he realizes he doesn't know how to read or write in this world's language. Feeling embarrassed, Kenichi explains his predicament to Azalea. She listens carefully before offering a word of caution, pointing out that the Merchants Guild will never accept him as a registered merchant if he struggles with fundamental skills like reading and writing. Kenichi quickly clarifies that he's fully capable of reading, writing, and even performing mathematical calculations, but he admits he cannot do so in this nation's writing system. To verify his claim, Azalea decides to test him with a math question. To her surprise, Kenichi answers it effortlessly. Satisfied that he possesses the essential skills, she guides him through writing his name in the register. Afterward, Kenichi asks if she can teach him how to read and write in the nation's language, offering her some candy as a reward. Excited by the offer, Azalea immediately agrees. As they talk, Kenichi learns that the land he's in is the Kingdom of Kadon, a nation governed by a hierarchical system with nobles and a king. Kenichi spends most of the night with Azalea, discovering that the country's language isn't too different from his native Japanese. Lying on the bed with a faint blush, Azalea is impressed by how quickly Kenichi picks it up, confidently concluding that he'll do well as a merchant. While Azalea takes a moment to rest, Kenichi, feeling a bit bored, decides to sketch a portrait of her. When he shows her the drawing, she's astonished by how lifelike it appears. Remembering all the kindness Kenichi has shown her so far, Azalea blushes deeply once more and gently pulls him onto the bed to thank him in her own way. Later that day, Kenichi goes downstairs to the guild center, where he meets the receptionist. She hands him a handwritten registration form to fill out. He's initially confused about why it's handwritten, but then realizes they haven't developed printing technology yet. After filling out his details, he returns the form to the receptionist, who validates it. However, she informs him that the guild registration fee is 1 silver piece, roughly 50,000 yen. The thought of this makes Kenichi sigh heavily because he knows he doesn't have money like that. He asks if he can pay in installments, and the receptionist agrees, giving him a sense of relief. She then hands him his guild card, a simple metal piece with a crystal embedded at its center. The following day, Kenichi heads to the market, conversing with various merchants to gather information on the prices of goods and explore potential profitable opportunities. Later, back at the inn, he decides to improve his living space by constructing a more comfortable bed. Azalea observes him from afar, impressed by his carpentry skills and the care he puts into his work. As she continues to watch Kenichi diligently working on his project, her attention is drawn to the sturdy and uniquely designed clothespins he's using. Curious, she approaches him and asks if she could buy a few, mentioning that the thin clothespins she typically uses tend to break easily. Her remark sparks an idea in Kenichi's mind, and he begins to realize that these clothespins might have the potential to become a profitable product. The following day, Kenichi decides to set up a stand at a local market to sell these clothespins. The stand next to his is run by a woman named Anama. Shortly after he opens for business, Anama comes over to buy a few clothespins from him. Kenichi seems surprised by her interest, but Anama casually tells him there's no rule against stand neighbors buying from each other. With this interaction, they exchange introductions and strike up an acquaintance. Kanisha's clothespin business quickly turns into a massive success. On his very first day, he attracts a constant flow of customers. Much to his excitement, Anama shares in his joy, thanking him for the boost in foot traffic, as the crowd drawn to his stand has also brought more customers her way. Later, Kanishi takes some time to review his earnings. To his amazement, he discovers he's made a profit equivalent to over 15,000 yen in just one day, a considerable sum by the local standards. This achievement solidifies his belief that selling clothespins alone could provide him with a steady and sustainable livelihood. Just as he finishes his calculations, another customer approaches his stand, a tall blonde man with a sword on his hip, giving off the impression of someone important. The man browses the stand and eventually asks if Kanishi has any knives suitable for battle. Kanishi shows him a finely crafted blade, which the man inspects closely. Though it's a pristine weapon, something about it doesn't feel right. It's too short for his needs. The blonde man asks if Kanishi has anything larger. Kanishi nods and presents him with a tall broadsword. The man is immediately impressed, marveling at the quality and craftsmanship of the blade. He's eager to purchase it and asks for the price. Kanishi quotes 1 gold piece, but the blonde man hesitates, clearly feeling the price is steep. Despite this, he finds the sword so beautiful that he can't let it go. Their conversation is suddenly interrupted when a purple-haired catgirl appears out of nowhere and licks Kanishi's face. Startled by the unexpected gesture, Kanishi stumbles backward and falls to the ground. Noticing his shocked reaction, the blonde man observes silently for a moment before realizing that Kanishi has likely never encountered beastfolk before. He calmly explains to Kanishi that beings like the catgirl are a normal part of this world. Moments later, more beastfolk arrive and apologize for their sister's impulsive behavior. One of them climbs onto Kanishi's stand, grabs the cloth draped over it, and enthusiastically announces their intent to buy it. Kanishi initially tells them the cloth isn't for sale, but reconsiders upon seeing an opportunity to make money. He decides to sell the cloth for 9 pieces of copper, including a discount of 1 copper piece. The beastfolk, however, don't have the exact amount. Kanishi assures them it's fine and calculates the change they're owed. The beastfolk look at him suspiciously, unsure if they can trust his math. Just as tensions rise, the blonde man speaks up, confirming that Kanishi's calculations are accurate. Satisfied, the beastfolk hand over the money, take their cloth, and leave. The beastfolk aren't known to be the brightest when it comes to calculations, so it makes sense. The blonde man, impressed by Kanishi's honesty and ingenuity, ultimately decides to purchase the sword after all. Elsewhere in the city, a maid who purchased Kanishi's clothespins shows them to her master, Primula. Intrigued, Margaret asks if they could be used in the mansion, pointing out how much easier they would make the maid's chores. Primula agrees enthusiastically, suggesting they purchase more the following day. Taking the idea further, she envisions selling the clothespins through her own company, recognizing them as a potential gold mine. Excited by the opportunity, she rushes off to seek her father's permission to move forward with the plan. That evening, Kanishi is taking a bath by the well, wishing he could have a warm bath, but those haven't been invented yet. He decides he's going to have to make one himself. Looking through the store if there's anything he could use to make the hot bath, and he happens to find a barrel for sale and intends to fill it with water and put it over a fire so he can experience a hot bath again. If his idea works out, he thinks he might be able to make some profit from it. That aside, Kanishi has been benefiting a lot from his online store screen, but he has no idea how it actually works or how the packages even get to him in the first. Unsure if they can trust his math. Just as tensions rise, the blonde man speaks up, confirming that Kanishi's calculations are accurate. Satisfied, the beastfolk hand over the money, take their cloth, and leave. The beastfolk aren't known to be the brightest when it comes to calculations, so it makes sense. The blonde man, impressed by Kanishi's honesty and ingenuity, ultimately decides to purchase the sword after all. Elsewhere in the city, a maid who purchased Kanishi's clothespins shows them to her master, Primula. Intrigued, Margaret asks if they could be used in the mansion, pointing out how much easier they would make the maid's chores. Primula agrees enthusiastically, enthusiastically, suggesting they purchase more the following day. Taking the idea further, she envisions selling the clothespins through her own company. Recognizing them as a potential gold mine, excited by the opportunity, she rushes off to seek her father's permission to move forward with the plan. That evening, Kenichi is taking a bath by the well, wishing he could have a warm bath, but those haven't been invented yet. He decides he's going to have to make one himself. Looking through the store if there's anything he could use to make the hot bath, and he happens to find a barrel for sale and intends to fill it with water and put it over a fire so he can experience a hot bath again. If his idea works out, he thinks he might be able to make some profit from it. That aside, Kenichi has been benefiting a lot from his online store screen, but he has no idea how it actually works or how the packages even get to him in the first place. Honestly, it feels almost too good to be true, and Kenichi can't shake the worry that it might eventually demand his soul as payment. While his success with the clothespins has been encouraging, he finds himself pondering what new product he could develop to achieve similar results. However, no fresh ideas come to him. Frustrated, he gazes at the ceiling, his thoughts drifting to the bigger questions. For now, there's no point in dwelling on it, so Kenichi decides to call it a night and get some sleep. Meanwhile, deep within the forest, a young girl named Anemone is on the run.